I've seen you write that this moment proves America is still a superpower with unmatched leverage over Israel and Qatar and Egypt and Turkey. How is that leverage being felt on the ground right now in Jerusalem? What are people saying?
Well, I mean, I think you saw a perfect example, Ben, late last night at the cabinet meeting that Prime Minister Netanyahu convened with his ministers. He brings into the meeting of his cabinet Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, the president's son-in-law and the president's special envoy for Middle East issues. They're sitting next to him at that table of the government and of the cabinet as they're about to vote on whether to accept this deal or not to accept it. So, I mean, if there's any indication of just how involved and how integral the United States is for Israel's security and for the future of what happens in the Middle East, there was the perfect example of Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner sitting right next to the prime minister, him flanked on both sides by senior American officials. Look, at the end of the day, there's no replacing America and the role that it plays here in the Middle East. And I think that if there's anything that all of these different countries share, whether it's Turkey, whether it's Egypt, whether it's Israel, whether it's the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, it's that they want to see America engaged. They want to see America involved. And the fact that Donald Trump is really using his personal political capital to try to achieve some of these objectives is something that is very important for the different players in this region.
For many Israelis, this deal is mainly about one thing above everything else, the return of hostages held for so long. How is that potential moment being received this morning?
I mean, to some extent, Ben, you had yesterday morning on Thursday, as the news came in the middle of the night, bottles of champagne popping open at what became known as Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, where the families and, of course, their supporters have been gathering for the last 2 years to call on the government to do everything it can to release those hostages. We're in the middle here in Israel of a holiday that's known as Sukkot, and it's known throughout Jewish tradition as the holiday of joy, the holiday of celebration. And the thought that the hostages might be coming back in the middle of this holiday is something that just adds to that measure of celebration and joy that every Israeli wants to feel during this holiday. It has been difficult because of the hostages not being here. So it's a very tense moment. Everyone is obviously aware that a lot can go wrong still, and Hamas is a cynical, barbaric, murderous terrorist organization, and they could be playing all of us. But hopefully this will happen. And when it happens, there will not be a dry eye in this country.
Now, I don't want to be a dark cloud over a very positive time, but what happens if this ceasefire still doesn't happen or if it doesn't hold?
Well, I mean, that's really the big question. I mean, if something does go wrong or go sideways and the hostages suddenly aren't found, or Hamas doesn't release all the hostages, or something happens on the ground. I mean, we just received news early this morning of an Israeli soldier who was killed late yesterday by sniper fire. And of course, there were also Palestinians and Israeli strikes that continued. So, I mean, it just goes to show, right, some successful attack by Hamas against Israeli troops who are now in defensive positions in Gaza, or vice versa, everything could blow up. What happens in the next phases of this, Ben, right? So we now know at least that the 20 living hostages come back, and at least some of the bodies that Hamas can find and identify are coming back. But what about the bodies that remain? What about the issues of Hamas's disarmament? What about one of the other points in the 20-point plan by Trump is the establishment of a new technocratic government in Gaza that does not include Hamas? We need a lot of patience, and we need to have a real ability to stand and have patience but tolerance, because there's going to be problems that are going to come up. All sides will be required to make a lot of compromises, but hopefully everyone understands that this is what it is in everyone's interest. It's in the interest of Israel to end the war, bring the hostages home, bring the soldiers home, heal as a nation after 2 years of war, and give the Palestinians in Gaza the opportunity to rebuild, reconstruct, to heal also after 2 years of a war that this terrorist group that has now been hopefully removed and decimated brought upon the civilian population.
Yes, indeed. Yaakov Katz for now in Jerusalem. Thank you. Let's see what happens.